And I've never been as happy as right now, but shit, I gotta cope with the fact that it dies down. Cause in the end, I just wake up salty, start my day with a pot of black coffee.
So I haven't really kept it a secret that I'm getting pretty big into One Piece, and while I'm still super early into the story, I've definitely fallen down the rabbit hole of learning the card game. And just so everyone knows, I was doing this before Logan Paul started talking about Luffy D Monkey, so don't even at me. So I was wanting to go and participate in an event and try and find a place in the community, and this is when I found the Red Bull Double Dawn event that was about to open its registration, and I somehow magically got in despite it only having 64 slots per event. I'm gonna assume most people watching this know how to play the One Piece card game, but if you don't, the simple idea is to use Dawn cards to play characters, events, and stages, and battle your opponent and hit your opponent's leader until they get hit with no life cards remaining. The main difference in the Double Dawn format is the Red Bull Double Dawn you start with, which gives you double the power when given to a leader or character, but otherwise is just another Dawn. So with the releases of OP14 and EVO3, I decided to research the meta and decided I wanted to try the most popular deck in the format, Imu and the Five Elders. This deck has a lot of good matchups in the meta and has the ability to keep generating bodies to keep the pressure up. I also looked at a few decks for the upcoming Heroine Battle events and ordered a Yamato deck along with the rest as a backup, and so I could play in other events, but due to a mix of circumstances with shipping and lost packages, I ended up missing a few cards and had to lock in on Yamato the day before the event. His game plan is to also keep up pressure, but is given the ability of dealing double damage, making them a scarier threat to drain your opponent's resources. Add on your yellow staples like Bartholomew Kuma and You're the One Who Should Disappear, as well as strong Wano cards like Izo and the new EBO3 Yamato. Despite the little practice I got before the event, I still got up early and made the long hour-plus drive to the closest local hosting the qualifier, and I locked in. I was a bit nervous since I don't do the best in new social situations, but the players were super friendly, and as I go through the summaries of my rounds, they were super chilled. I was a newer player with less than 20 hours of experience, and even gave pointers with my list that I'll show on screen, and I feel helped me a lot perform during the event. I went in knowing I wasn't going to get to the finals to qualify for the finals event in April, but I was confident to get a few wins despite drowning in Swiss pools like a devil fruit user in the ocean. So let's get to the matchups. I sat down for my first match mainly having studied the top tables of tournaments documented on Limitless, knowing Purple Dofi was going to be my worst matchup followed by Emu, but to my surprise my opponent was on a deck that I didn't really study for, Yellow Purple Rosinante, a deck that looks like it's seeing some play, especially with the new Trafalgar Law support. It was fun to finally see Yamato in action. I was doing pretty good, keeping some pressure on my opponent, but his board was just too well insulated with blockers that I was scared to knock out. It didn't have many ways of removing them otherwise. Aside from a few misplays and being corrected on a couple effects like forgetting to take a life card from Hody Jones, I did the best I could for a first game on paper into an unknown matchup. I later found out he not only made it to the top cut, but also qualified for the finals in Milwaukee, so I wish him the best of luck. Yeah, I knew going into this that this matchup was almost impossible for me. Purple Dofi, the attack redirecting menace of the format. My issue was I wasn't able to put up enough of a board presence to push for damage and make him burn through his leader ability. This game I did realize that I was playing Momonosuke incorrectly and I could have used his ability to gain rush after Yamato attacks to get more power out of it, since Yamato's leader effect would let me give the double dawn and another to give him essentially a 3k boost on top of his 1k. I hope the next time I play against a Dofi I'm a little better at handling the board control. So I'd only seen this list like once or twice while doing research, and I just did not realize how much of a menace Jinbei from OP14 is in this format. Not just his synergy with Fishmen and Merfolk, but his ability to unload his entire hand to untap their Dawn and hit harder and just kinda overwhelm me. This one was close and it came down to my last life. I did have a chance if my last life card would have been You're the One Who Should Disappear to gain another life and potentially hold out to win on the clapback, but it just wasn't in the cards. I was feeling a little disheartened, being 0-3 at my first event and knowing I wasn't going to make finals, but I knew it was going to be rough going in, and this is just my way to learn. Plus, I walk away with some nice participation items on screen here, and I'm kind of glad I got that rather than some scalpers. However, it did seem like a lot of people were starting to drop out of the event, probably just because they were mainly in it for the promos or trying to qualify. So my round 4 was basically just a buy round since my opponent dropped without letting the organizers know. So I just used it to chill, collect myself, tell myself, I can do this. I can win the next couple games and finish with an even record. Next match was someone on starter deck Yellow Luffy. Despite being a leader from our pre-con, this deck is pretty consistent with its fast output of trigger effects and having some of the best staples in the game. But with double damage, I was able to lock in and force out as many counters from hand as possible super early on. It does suffer from not really having too many blockers, but I think that this deck's issue will be fixed up when Borsellino comes out in the next set. Plus, utilizing the previously mentioned 6-cost Momonosuke Yamato combo, I was able to get my first proper win and got ready for the last round. The last round came around and it was another Jinbei, and I was kind of just having fun and trying to rush them down fast with the Yamato, boosting with cards like Otama, but it definitely was not the right call and I just burned my life too fast and lost. Yeah, I felt a little greedy, but to be fair, my hand for a couple turns looks like a full house from Balatro, so what can you really do? I ended the event in 41st out of 64 with a 2-4 record, and then headed back home proud of how well I did despite the circumstances of my first event, and now being excited to play even more, especially when I get my Imu stuff in the mail. I am definitely ready to keep learning Yamato, especially with the Heroines events still happening right now at the time of me recording this, but I'm just going to try to experiment with as many decks as I can and try to figure out what works really for me. This is just a fun little video that I'm making while I'm working on other stuff. Fun little bit of rambling, not like a serious like Wolf Glick tournament report. I just want to thank everyone who's been patient with me about the slower videos. I've just not been feeling so hot, but I promise, when things are ready, you're gonna have them right at your fingertips. I originally was wanting to get Patreon started early on this year, and that still may happen in the future, but for the time being, I want to make sure that I give you guys great content and don't feel like I'm having to paywall it so you guys have to support me on Patreon. But if you want more content like this, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I hope you all have a great day. Good luck to anyone who actually did qualify. And who knows, maybe more tournament reports will be in the cards in the future. Bye guys.